This computer. Test, test. Welcome to SharePoint Saturday DC. Those of you who are tuning in on the broadcast, this is a one-day conference, free conference, where the best and brightest Microsoft technology minds have the opportunity to meet and fellowship with the supporters, whether they are readers of blogs, technical professionals, people who are transitioning into the Microsoft SharePoint community as a whole, have the opportunity to learn and share, grow, and evolve. So SharePoint Saturday DC is in around 11th or 12th year. And so it's always a pleasure to deliver value to the audience. So this session will be recorded and on demand for those who are members of email lists, and also bonus content for the upcoming LinkedIn and Microsoft Office integration course, which will be coming your way soon. So I'm a why kind of guy. So before I tell you the who, I like to discuss the why and the what. So this session is the continuation of the reputation management tour throughout 2018, went all around the United States of America and discussed LinkedIn as a platform, LinkedIn's acquisition by Microsoft, which is the largest acquisition in the history of the Microsoft Corporation, and planted the seed that the acquisition of Microsoft or LinkedIn by Microsoft was part of a global strategy that Microsoft is using to get market share in places where Office 365 is not present. When you think about the Microsoft graph and you think about the LinkedIn graph and you put those together and start to think about Microsoft Search and the various tools that you have available through Office 365, combined with the world's largest business platform with over 300 billion users, then you start to see a compelling use case unfolding. So this session, the perspective or paradigm of this session is, okay, I've attended the first session and I understand that LinkedIn is valuable, but now we're moving forward and we're saying, I have a company, I have an enterprise, I have an organization, and we need to utilize Microsoft LinkedIn as well as our Office 365 tenant. What are some ways that we can share information between the two platforms and leverage both to, let's say, have a public-facing presence and, let's say, governance around what we're sharing, as well as the top-notch employees that we have that are public-facing in terms of speaking, marketing, so on and so forth. So again, LinkedIn, amongst Fortune 500 companies, LinkedIn is head and shoulders in terms of adoption, use cases, case studies, as far as social media is concerned. The question that I have for you that are tuning in online, and those of you in the audience, is your company active on LinkedIn? And what is your company strategy? So as you start to, let's say, speak at events, as you start to market your own personal brand in relation to your company, you have to always be in synergy with your company strategy. So we're going to go into some deep steps, details on how to do that. And of course, the source for this is the LinkedIn Marketing Solutions blog. I don't just make this stuff up. So reputation management, part 2. I believe that reputation is a form of currency in today's world. If you think about, let's say, what reputation can deliver for you as a professional, then you start to look into, let's say, SEO or search engine optimization. Then you start to go down a rabbit hole of what we're going to discuss here, which is LinkedIn, corporate LinkedIn for the Work Center here at SharePoint Saturday, DC. Okay, the hidden truth. Now, when we talk about conversions, there's many different definitions of what a conversion is. But we all can look at a graph and understand colors and understand lines, so on and so forth. So what we have here is per social platform. Per social platform. Again, I did not make this up. This is publicly available data that exists. So LinkedIn is head and shoulders above Facebook, for example, which many people would consider the worldwide leader of social media. But when you start to think about the context that we're discussing this today, which is business to business, then you start to look at how LinkedIn, when used in that context, becomes so overwhelmingly powerful when compared to Facebook, Twitter, and the recently decommissioned Google+. So head and shoulders. So just to give a common definition, and whenever you see the blue bird at the footer of the page, that is your invitation to tweet this information. These are valuable facts. So a conversion, the definition of a conversion is essentially a measurement of the success rate of transforming a visitor into a customer. This could be transforming a visitor into a lead, or a visitor into a customer, or a one-time customer into a lifetime customer. And of course, whenever you send out your tweet, make sure you use the hashtag SPSDC so that the rest of the attendees can see the great information that you are sharing. Sharing is caring. So now, ideas for discussion. Here's what we're going to cover. Operational readiness. When I was in the military, I used to write standard operating procedure documents and manuals and books. And so whenever I work on projects, I carry that mindset into when something is created, it must be documented. When something is documented, that application solution lives on forever. The best compliment that I receive as a professional is years and years and years later, my applications that I've built still are in use because I provided the instructions for how to build, maintain, update those solutions. So we're applying this to social media as it relates to the integration points that are built in by Microsoft for Office 365 in relation to LinkedIn. So this is not a fluff how to use social media session. This is a Office 365 session featuring Microsoft LinkedIn. And from a corporate awareness standpoint, it has to be driven home that LinkedIn is a Microsoft platform and or tool. It is not often thought of in that way because they're marketed separately, but there's absolutely integration points. I'm going to walk through those in painstaking detail, nothing but demos on this journey. We're going to, because when you actually go into the steps of integrating LinkedIn into your organization, you're going to have various orphans. And what I mean by orphans, you may have a company page that has never been updated. You're going to have employees who, let's say, have spoken at 5 or more events and feel that they are their own individual brand, and you have to reel them in terms of how they fit into the overall strategy. So we're going to cover nothing but best practices in terms of prepping your profiles, prepping your company page, what to do with LinkedIn hashtags, LinkedIn live video. How do you go about this? How do you create a governance plan for the world's largest social media platform for business? So we're going to go into that. And the whole context of that is by the end of these ideas for discussions, you'll have the building blocks for an actual LinkedIn governance plan. I challenge you to search the World Wide Web and find me an example of a LinkedIn governance plan. We might be ahead of our time here with this session. We might just be. So you can search any social media, you can search SlideShare, you can go into LinkedIn. If you can find a written PDF, we'll even go Word and Notepad, LinkedIn corporate governance plan. But when I say that LinkedIn as a platform for businesses or Fortune 500 companies has over 80% usage rate or adoption rate for Fortune 500 companies, but you can't find a single governance plan, there might be a disconnect within our organizations. So just food for thought. Now, we covered, like I said, I'm a why kind of guy, so before we get into who I am, I had to make sure you understood why we're actually here. Because if you don't understand that, then you may be in the wrong session. You may be, if you're tuning in on your recording, you may have clicked on the wrong video. So I want to make sure we had a framework of understanding. So I am Shadi Q Laser, and today the Q stands for LinkedIn. And I am a best-selling author of this book, Our Very Best Advice to Succeed in Business, which is written by a few of my close friends in business, sharing our lessons. From the time that I touched down on planet Earth, I have been involved in some form of family business. I got my first job at 17, but work started as early as I can remember. So family values, entrepreneurship, these are ingrained into my way of being. So this particular book, Master of Office 365 Administration, I serve as a technical reviewer, technical editor, and great book, deep dive into Office 365 Administration, written by Thomas Carpe, Nakia Carter, and Laura Ryan of Liquid Mercury Solutions. And also, as far as case studies, the interesting fact about me is that I'm the only individual who has architected the official state website for the state in which I live and the Commonwealth or state in which I was born. So the architect of the official website of Maryland, which is maryland.gov. I also am the architect of Pennsylvania.gov and Wisconsin.gov. Now, that architecture, which is not just a website redesign or disaster recovery and clusters and uptime and availability, the Visio diagram would shock, amaze, and make you very afraid, has been mimicked or utilized. That model has been utilized in 19 US states at this time. And I was the front man, or the gentleman, along with a great team, who convinced the US government that if this utilizing smartphone technology for common tasks such as updating or your driver's license or accessing government services, seeing, let's say, your social security or retirement is the way of the future. At the time, that decision would have led to multi-billions of dollars lost in terms of bad implementation and approximately about 262 jobs. So they took a risk and a gamble, and let's say smartphone technology, let's say mobile first in the government was a major wave that I was a part of, and some of these projects are part of that overall experience. So when it comes to being in the trenches, hands-on, making decisions, large decisions that impact a large group, then that is my skill set. That's it. Unless that works. Okay. Now, that never happened. In terms of small business, as I mentioned, I have a love for small business, and I am the chapter chair of SCORE Greater Baltimore. Now, SCORE is the nation's largest network of business mentors. What you don't know is that, or you may not know, is that in a small business context, the Small Business Administration typically was not designed for you to, let's say, get a business plan or go directly to website resources, offices. And so SBA acquires SCORE, partnered with SCORE to make sure that you have essentially a certified business mentor. I am the chapter chair of the third oldest chapter in the United States. So all things small business, entrepreneurship, flow through my inbox, and we have great initiatives in play in terms of, let's say, ensuring that youth in high school, for example, have access to a business mentor at the same rate that they have access to a guidance counselor. And when you think about we have 3 or 4 universities in Greater Baltimore where we have business mentors, and we're kicking off a widespread implementation for high schools as well. So think about the trajectory of your life and the apps you've built if you were able to sit down with a business mentor during your formative years before you got your driver's license. Where would you be? Okay, now, in terms of our bonus values, this session, I can talk about this session for 3 hours. I create sessions as workshops, and then I pare them down into sessions. So I know that we can go beyond the 60 to 75 minutes for this session. I plan for it, but I don't just give the value and throw it away. I give you bonus value. So what you will get is the LinkedIn and Outlook integration guide. So basically, as I was putting down the session, took screenshots, and I created a guide for it. Also, the upcoming LinkedIn and Office 365 integration online courses, of course, for those of you who are attending this session. And also the LinkedIn and Microsoft Flow quick start guide, because Microsoft Flow was used in the making of this session. So give you some of the ins and outs of LinkedIn, let's say, templates that you can use with Flow. And there's already a 1-hour LinkedIn deep dive that you can access via the link here that I delivered for the Lawrence SharePoint user group, led by Nate Chamberlain in Kansas. So the first half of this session, where we talk about LinkedIn and personal brands and professionals, deep dive on that is available at this URL. And also, for those of you who are Twitter inclined, this is your tweet to work with. Make it easy for you. Now, in order to access this information, you must use your smartphone. And if you text the word LinkedIn 2018 to the number 44222, you will gain access. Now, it will not come to you immediately because I'm here. So I have to compile all the resources and deliver those to you next week. You will also receive, this is an ongoing series. So as I deliver LinkedIn sessions, I give you the lessons learned from each session via email, and so that you get ongoing value. As I learn, you learn. It costs you the time to text LinkedIn 2018 to 44222. And from there, again, let's say if you were on the LinkedIn Express when I spoke at SharePoint Saturday in New York City, for example, you would have got the feedback from that audience or some of the thoughts that I had as I was putting together that session. And I like to do conference calls after the session, on a Tuesday after the session, that we discuss some of the lessons learned, questions, so on and so forth. Yes, text message rate 5. Well, I have to use the fast response details last. Okay, for best results, This is not a monologue, i.e. the Jay Leno show or the Tonight Show. This is more or less your opportunity to learn about LinkedIn. So laptops, smartphones, let's say since we're going to discuss company pages, are all welcome to be accessed. I will not, say if you have an additional tab with social media open, I will not judge. Just make sure you use this time to work on your LinkedIn platform profile. Okay, so a basic quiz. How does your company use LinkedIn? And there's always, now I had to deal with at least 1,000 LinkedIn profiles per year. So I've seen it all, spoken with many companies, many businesses, and there's always a tale of 4 cities here, not 2 cities, 4 cities. And so it may range from what is LinkedIn. This is very common. Social media is a time waster. It can be if you don't have a strategy, which we're putting together step by step in terms of a LinkedIn governance plan. C, the company understands its importance, but it needs a roadmap. So it may be a horrible implementation. It may be, let's say, a hot code implementation where it may be used around the time of a SharePoint Saturday event, they're sponsored, and then afterwards, it's no usage at all. From a professional standpoint, you often see where when people are gainfully employed, they turn LinkedIn off, it collects cobwebs, it's in, attic somewhere. And when things get a little shaky at the job, then they're on LinkedIn every day. And in the first session, or the first part of the session, I talk about how you should utilize, or for best practices, you should utilize LinkedIn as your dashboard for your career. So when I attend a SharePoint Saturday event, I'll give you a great strategy that I personally use. Whenever I'm a speaker at a SharePoint Saturday event, I go and I add all the speakers for that event to my LinkedIn profile. I have, when people often ask, what do I say to break the ice? Well, you're all speakers at the same event. So you have something in common to work with right there. And that's where you can, so a week in advance, add everyone in LinkedIn. And then at the speaker center, I have the connection, then I can start to build the relationships from there. And so when you you attend a session, for example, you can say, for example, I attended Bobby's session and I thought that points A, B, and C were great. So that becomes a LinkedIn recommendation. If you read a blog post, for example, and that individual delivered value, helped you learn something, solve a problem, you can reach out to that individual with that in mind. Hey, I read your blog on Microsoft Teams and the best practices, and you taught me how channels can help me collaborate better, and what are the differences between SharePoint and Teams. Please join my network on LinkedIn. There's nothing salesy, shady, scammy about any of these things. And so when you utilize LinkedIn in that particular way, then you'll find that when opportunities come, or you need an opportunity, you have this large web of contacts just based on the information you consume, the events, the things you're already doing. So that's where things come into play. Okay. 50%, it's actually over 50% of all social media traffic to your business, website, or blog starts from LinkedIn. Numerous statistics from Hootsuite to Microsoft to LinkedIn itself that all, let's say, validate this claim statistic. As I mentioned, if Microsoft with AI and LinkedIn's platform utilizes AI in a number of different ways, and LinkedIn is the only social media platform that becomes more intelligent the more that you use it. because of the underlying AI that governs the LinkedIn platform. And as, let's say, the LinkedIn graph becomes more intelligent and you start to integrate it with your organization and you start to train it through keywords and hashtags and search scopes in various terms, then your use of LinkedIn as it relates to people data or people search. And when you start to think of LinkedIn and people search as synonyms, then it becomes more and more compelling and interesting. From a company standpoint, the resume is becoming outdated, and LinkedIn has a full job board within, the ability to upload resumes. The profile is used as a resume as well as recommendations. Very important. When you think about ROI, you think about content as it relates to business, being in a position where what you do reaches the decision maker, it's important to understand that when you publish an article as a company on LinkedIn, the probability of reaching a person in a decision-making role is higher than anywhere else on the internet that you can share it. So if I'm a company, if I'm a business owner, if I'm in marketing, I'm in sales, I'm thinking, how can I get my content to the right people? And LinkedIn is the way to do so. In this session, what we're going to cover is how to utilize Office 365 as a tool in order to allow that to happen. But we need to lay the groundwork first. So when we talk about the world being smaller than you think, this is an actual slide from part 1, where I talk about the 6 degrees of separation, the theory of it, and the internet, social media, making the world more or less 2 to 3 degrees of separation. And if you look at LinkedIn, if you look very closely, you'll see that there are 3 degrees of contacts or connections that are within LinkedIn. There might be a reason for that. So when we think about the world being smaller, and we think, number one, we can access the world in the palm of our hand through our smartphone. Mobile users on LinkedIn, 63 billion. So they're always searching, they're always finding, they're always reacting on the content that exists. This is very important. There's over 60 million millennials on LinkedIn. But so when you think about the future of organizations, the future of business, it all starts with our millennials, and 11 million of them are decision makers. So, and it's important to note that millennials have a superpower in that they were like, I was maybe 20 before I really became acclimated with the internet. If you think about someone today, they were born with tablets and smartphones, so on and so forth. And so when you think about where the trends are going and shifting to, again, you have to think about the world we live in. So when you think about, this is a slide from the Microsoft Corporation. I did not use my Photoshop skills on this. So when you think about LinkedIn, the future is now in that LinkedIn is synonymous with the profile card or profile data within your Office 365 environment. So having LinkedIn data ranging from Outlook to your profile in Windows to PowerPoint, OneDrive, this slide actually needs to include more, because when you start to go into various applications, like within this session alone, we have forms. We have, there's also OneNote integration. There's a ton of different things that you can do, but the point being is that anywhere your profile is, it is powered by the LinkedIn graph. It's integrated. So these are a few, intelligent professional network is one of my favorite use cases for this particular approach. And of course, this is from the first slide. You have Cortana and the ability to, let's say, look at a LinkedIn contact and set up meetings from that standpoint. And as I mentioned, and this is a great example below, economicgraph.linkedin.com of the LinkedIn graph in motion. Great use case, but this slide, again, I did not create this slide. This is a Microsoft slide. And when you think about the various use cases of the Microsoft graph and the data that you can access, and you start to look at the LinkedIn graph and the integration points and the applications that you can build with the different examples, for example, learning prospects with dynamics and integrating those with meetings and contacts and accounts, then it becomes a very powerful use case. Now, this is a 200 level session, but the 500 level session goes very much in depth with some mad scientist examples of exactly how to get a bit more dynamic with this particular example. So again, the world we live in is based on a on-demand paradigm. Meaning, if there's a TV show that you wanted to see and you want to watch it again, you're going to go to YouTube. There's a Netflix, Amazon, so on and so forth. This is the world we live in. Information that we're looking for, we tend to search. So let me step out of this mode and simple, easy search here. Now, to give you the context, I've been a television personality, I was a radio personality through most of my 20s. I've spoken all over the world. And so there's numerous things from a multimedia standpoint that can come up or that show up as a search result if you search for me. So in this particular case, from an SEO standpoint, LinkedIn is heavily weighted in terms of search engine priority. I did not pay for LinkedIn to be at the top of my search results, but this is what it is today. So using the world's #1 reputation network to your benefit would provide many advantages from a job search standpoint, from a professional standpoint, as far as whenever a business decision is made, a contract is issued or won, awarded, LinkedIn is one of the first 2 or 3 locations that decision makers are going to stop in order to vet your overall experience. And there are strategies in order to, I don't say manipulate, but position yourself in order to ensure that your credibility indicators are as high as they can be to help that decision get made. So again, the world is always searching. If there's interest or an idea, someone's going to search. Someone is always searching for information. So I was approved to be a speaker at this event. Someone's going to search to see what the session is about, what's his credibility, why, and answer those questions. So the information that you position under your name, under your company, under your business, under your blog, these are all assets that you must use to your benefit. If you do not use these assets that are going to exist anyway, and the searches are going to happen anyway, because the younger that the decision maker is, the more likely they are to actually go and search. Someone who is 65 years old, they may pick up a phone and call 3 references. Someone who is 35 and below going to go to a search engine to make a decision about you without your recollection or knowledge. So the question is, how are you leveraging that? Now, LinkedIn as a whole, and these are screenshots of the power of keywords and where they exist within LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is essentially a depository of keywords. And the more consistent you are with your keyword usage, the more that your profile is optimized. Again, because of AI, it cultivates the experience that you have on LinkedIn. So when you pay attention and using the best practices that I'll share, you will have a greater overall LinkedIn experience. Okay, so when we talk about integration points, and we'll get to walking through LinkedIn and Office 365. From my testing hands-on, this is what I've seen. There's many more, but in terms of Office 365, OneDrive, in terms of sharing documents or collaborating with individuals who are LinkedIn contacts, but do not have each other's email. That is possible within, let's say, today's context. In terms of OneNote, if I want to set up OneNote in order to utilize that as a dashboard to publish content to LinkedIn and maybe add a Microsoft Flow to schedule it, OneNote has that available. Microsoft Flow has the various LinkedIn templates that allow you to do many things in terms of scheduling, in terms of just automating the overall process. SharePoint list, which we will walk through, you can have a list, and once you populate that list, have trigger a flow in order to publish that to LinkedIn or personal profile or company page. Outlook, you have profile cards where you can add people as leads and also add people to LinkedIn directly from Outlook. User profiles, the profile is everywhere. We just saw the wheel. The Microsoft search ties it all in together. And then, of course, with Dynamics, there's a direct integration point with LinkedIn, as well as the premium version of LinkedIn, which is Sales Navigator, which I have. It won't be within this demo, but if you have questions on what Sales Navigator looks like, then we can go into that as well. Okay, let's get to it. So LinkedIn company pages is the first thing we're going to take a look at. I want to just get directly to okay. So first things first, LinkedIn company pages are available for free with the standard license of LinkedIn. You can create multiple pages, so a profile has a one-to-many relationship in terms of what you create. So it is available under your profile, and I have, just as a heads up, I have a premium account. And for those of you who are tuning into the broadcast, if you are a military veteran, you have access to LinkedIn Premium 1 year free charge. So LinkedIn provides that particular service for vets. So what you see here, excuse me, are the various company pages that I've created. But we'll look at a more prominent let's say, example, the Coca-Cola company. We'll also look at local SharePoint practices that, or Microsoft practices that have utilized company pages. And so company pages, of course, allow you to modify the look and feel. They allow you to, again, LinkedIn is a major, the dominant driver of traffic to websites and blogs in a business-to-business context. You have the ability to post information. You also have the ability to create affiliated pages and basically have a presence on such a powerful business-to-business channel. Take a look at With Them Digital. So the way With Them uses, of course, they've added some designs as far as header and logo, and have added recent information. There's integration with LinkedIn Sales Navigator here. We'll go, hold on. Planet Technologies, one of the companies I have worked for in my life. So you have the ability to view the page here in terms of viewing Sales Navigator or gather insights. Now, in terms of strategy, LinkedIn Premium Insights are available to companies once they have added up to 30 employees to the company page. So having buy-in in terms from a governance standpoint from the overall company is very, very important. So the insights that you gain here, growth of the company in terms of the various roles that exist, hiring patterns, so on and so forth. Now let's go into a few best practices. So we're going from the external and then bringing it into Office 365. So we start with the company page. Now, the next step would be the personal profile, because as I mentioned, if you have just a company page but no employees, having more employees creates an amplifying effect for any content that you create. So best practices, number one, headshot, as far as profile photo. Selfies, leave the selfie out. Group photos, leave group photos out. Do not take pictures with your cat or your dog. I've seen it all. Do not have a profile picture with your significant other. Leave that for Facebook. Leave Instagram. So you want a professional profile picture. The Microsoft Store actually provides free headshots for LinkedIn. So next, so profile photos are very important. So here you would talk to Mary, and I'll get you the information for that. So now, as far as the local Microsoft Store, next would be your headline. So there's many different theories on headlines and what you should put. Some people focus on title, but the biggest difference between LinkedIn and traditional resume is that you want to target in the writing of your profile for the target audience who is reading it. You're not writing it for yourself, you're writing it for the people who need that information. So that's the most important thing to keep in mind. So for someone who may be a small business, so on and so forth, you want to focus on what problems do you solve. So that is profile. Hold on one second. So going deeper into this. So for those of you who are tuning in on the recording, what we're doing now, we're going from the external view, from company pages to personal profile, linking the two, and then we're bringing it into Office 365. So we must start with the building blocks. So with our profile, and the bold LinkedIn icon indicates premium account. So with your profile, it is important to understand that LinkedIn is not a social network. LinkedIn is the most intelligent social media business, the most intelligent business platform on planet Earth. LinkedIn's underlying AI, which is provided by both the LinkedIn graph and the Microsoft graph, is what you're writing this profile for. LinkedIn is the only platform on planet Earth, as I mentioned, that becomes smarter the more that you use it. If you work with AI, you build different bots, and you understand from a bot standpoint. So we're going into building bots. You understand that the more you feed the bot information, the smarter it gets. The same thing is occurring with LinkedIn. So you must understand the keywords that drive your industry, that drive the technologies you work for. If you're an administrator, for example, versus a Microsoft Dynamics technical lead, one example has a certain amount of data. Example two is a much more richer description. So this particular platform is rich with keywords. However, it also is written from the standpoint of what someone who wants to work with me needs to see. So what does an exciting day look like for me? Or what projects am I most proud of? What the subtle detail, I'm giving you a little psychology on top of the technical detail. But the psychology of this is if you read this platform, you already feel like you know me, and this is essentially an interview in itself, so that when it's time to work together, then you have all the details that you need to know. Does that make sense? So next, how do you connect your, let's say, LinkedIn profile with the company? So if your manager says, we need to have a integrated LinkedIn strategy. So I've covered our local practices such as Witham Digital. I've also covered Planet Technology. So any firm, any practice with multiple MVPs would be foolish not to include the, let's say, technical know-how and leadership in terms of integrating employees with the overall company vision. So the first thing is on the personal profile, and this is pretty straightforward for many people, but I delivered a presentation on Wednesday of this week, and this question came up, so I have to answer it, I have to cover it. I thought everyone knew this, but you want to ensure, let's see here, if I can give an example. Here we go. We covered Planet Technology. Once upon a time, I was employee of Planet Technology. So this is when you, let's say, look up or do a search for the company itself, it aligns your profile with that particular company. Also, you want to go to the company page itself. Excuse me, let me scroll up. Let's see. I have to give you a different example so you can see it. But you want to go to that particular company page and follow the company so that when they make updates, you have the ability to share them, comment, like, so on and so forth. Very straightforward from a social media standpoint. But again, we're not talking about social media. We're talking about AI. We're talking about search engine optimization, and making those connections on this platform helps to amplify the message of that particular company. Say again? Ah, yes. Wisdom Digital. It is a good company. Yes, indeed. So now, let's move forward with going into Office 365. So first thing I want you to realize is that when someone asks me, what's the value of LinkedIn? My answer is counterintuitive, because the value of LinkedIn is not exactly what you do on the platform, is accessing the underlying customer data and then integrating it with other platforms. LinkedIn is the richest data source that you can have access to for free. It's amazing. So from a business standpoint, especially. So what I'm going to show you is where that actually starts. And so I'm going to go to my personal profile. I'm going to select, so what we're doing is we're exporting our data from LinkedIn. So go to my network, you'll select connections. Now, a few things to keep in mind. Your contact import, this is where you can import contacts from your tenant, for example, or from your corporate email into LinkedIn in order to build your network. But we're bringing information into Office 365. So what you want to select is manage synced and imported contacts. And so under the Advanced Actions tab, and I would recommend for those of you, let's say, who may have been contacted by HR marketing and are getting started, or you may be the decision maker, to start to clean out some of the contacts in before beginning this phase. And you would do so by selecting the boxes here, or let's say radio buttons, and select delete selected here. You can do a multi-select. So export contacts. And what you can see is you have the ability to select multiple from articles, connections, imported contacts, profile, so on and so forth. So think about search engine optimization. Think about Microsoft search, and this is what you're feeding into your overall tenant. So you would select download archive. Now, since in the testing of this, I've already downloaded an archive, this is just to show you where it exists. Okay. Now, our next step is to go into Office 365 territory. First thing you must do to ensure that your LinkedIn universe integrated with your Microsoft or Office 365 universe is to prep your tenant. So within Azure Active Directory, you have a section called User Settings. So you go to Users, you go to User Settings, and then if you scroll down, it's highlighted here. Again, LinkedIn, I did not code this to say LinkedIn account connection, because when I speak with a lot of business owners, they think LinkedIn and Office 365 are worlds apart. They think I'm making this up. Within Azure Active Directory, you have the ability to connect your Microsoft Work or School account with your LinkedIn connection. So what you want to make sure is that yes is selected. So let's see, a million tabs open, but this is the actual screenshot for those of you who need a better visual. So you start within your admin center, Azure Active Directory, which will launch a separate window, and basically select yes here. So we've set our tenant. We've let's say made sure our company pages are connected with our employees. We've activated our tenant as far as allowing LinkedIn and to be allowed within our overall tenant. And so let's look at a few things that are available. Let's see. Kind of slow. Give it a second. We're going to take a look at now is the profile card and some of the options that are available with profile cards. Okay. Kind of slow. So let me go to the slides. All right. So this was an example of what we've just covered in terms of our export of contacts, and right on cue, the true value of LinkedIn. So this is a screenshot of the import into, so if the demo slows down, always have screenshots. So this is your contacts import. In many cases, you'd be surprised how many very successful companies, you may think they start off with the corporate domain, but in many cases, when I do these evaluations, it all typically starts with a Gmail account. So someone started the company and used their personal Gmail account, and then as things evolve, they, let's say, purchase the domain and have the corporate email as well as the Microsoft account. So what I also would recommend is do in your evaluations, if you're the technical resource that has to actually go forth and do this, you want to also ask, do you have any other contacts, if you have a large LinkedIn network that you'd like to export from Google or Gmail. So you can go to contacts.google.com, and that will give you the entire address book, and that's where you would download that CSV file. and you'll go to Outlook and then upload that CSV file so that you have all your contact sources in one location. Now, what I was looking to bring up was the contact or profile card. So with profile cards, as you can see on the far end, you have access to LinkedIn. Now, with that being said, you also can add people to LinkedIn from within Outlook as well as add them as a lead. Let's see. Directory is slow. In any event, and we'll go and take a look at SharePoint list. So when we talk about social sharing with SharePoint, what we're discussing is how to use custom lists. Must have specific fields that, of course, are read by LinkedIn in order to publish content to either LinkedIn personal profiles and or company profiles. There's a few ways to accomplish this. The most simple way to accomplish it, you can go the API route, or you can go with the lowest hanging fruit, which is Microsoft Flow. That is a screenshot of successful publishing, but we'll take a look at, I put my own LinkedIn profile on the hot seat and publishing. People started to like it. I didn't say it was demo content, so, oh well. Let's see here. So what I've created was a site with the modern look and feel, and I created a list. Let's see, it's the Publisher Hub. And so in order to publish, I've tested this many different ways. Does it have to be in a certain order? It must be this exact, I like to say syntax, in order to publish to LinkedIn for to utilize this flow template. Within the description of the flow template, it actually says that as well. So these are your fields, nothing too complex, but from an automation standpoint, it actually absolutely saves you time. From a governance standpoint, having all your resources in one place, and let's say having a cool workflow on your content and or assets that exist within your publishing library is a great first step to successful governance. So within Microsoft Flow, you have your Flow template, which share articles from a SharePoint list. Very straightforward. The only issue you will run into is if you don't have the following columns that they list. So if I simply open up the flow, and let's say if I wanted to make this a bit more complex and have, let's say, notifications to marketing when this particular item is created, or when a new item is created in the list, then I can have that set up by adding a new step. I can have, let's say, multi-stage notifications when it's created, when it's published, and so on and so forth. If I need someone to approve the publishing, then you can take, let's say, multiple steps within Microsoft Flow and go from there. So I'll test this so that it publishes. just so you can see it. So that has run, and what you'll see, again, for best practices, I would recommend having notifications for that. This is for demo purposes. All right. Where's LinkedIn? Hey, that's me. But once it successfully publishes, this is a previous example, it will tell you your post was successfully shared on LinkedIn. This is the title that was used. And you always want to go back and check. Let's see, new notifications. There you go. So this was our demo example, 17 seconds. Go to view your post, and once it's published, so within the post itself on the list, I have the link to a nice high quality and link to the article and title. So you can also add, let's say, additional text. You can also add and tag people on LinkedIn. So you use @ in the profile, or let's say, what is the ampersand? What is that sign? So the @ sign and also the person's profile. It will not resolve within Office 365, although there is the integration. But once it publishes to LinkedIn, then the profile will be picked up and you'll be able to hyperlink to that. Now, so that is publishing from using a SharePoint list, utilizing Microsoft Flow to automate and publishing to LinkedIn. Additional capabilities that you have is the ability to schedule posts. So if you have, let's say, SharePoint Saturday coming up, the company needs to get the word out about who's speaking at the event, or the SharePoint conference is a big example. We have 5 speakers, 5 MVPs, and we need this to go out right away. Or if you are sponsoring a booth and you have a giveaway or a raffle, you can use Microsoft Flow templates as well in order to accomplish that. So, additional capabilities that you have within Office 365, as I mentioned, is the ability to use OneNote as a dashboard to publish to LinkedIn. So publish content to OneNote, it picks up content, publishes to LinkedIn. You also have the ability, one of my favorites is the ability to collaborate with individuals using OneDrive without having their email address, if they're first degree connections with you on LinkedIn. So in many cases, there's often this dance where you communicate before with LinkedIn InMail, which is very popular for marketers, business owners. So you can collaborate with that individual using InMail, or before it becomes, let's say you exchange emails and use OneDrive to send proposals, to send even, let's say, session abstracts to different conferences, or different slides or other information that would be worthwhile to collaborate with. Now, when it comes to publishing to company pages, there's a few additional ways to go about it. It's a entirely different process, but you can utilize forms in order to do so. So first, let me see. So we're back in Microsoft Flow. And you will utilize forms. And I'll just show you the fields. They're more or less the same, but there's multiple ways that teams communicate and collaborate, and Office 365 provides you that capability. So I created a content approval form. And so using this particular scenario, this allows for someone to submit content. So Prashant, for example, has a slide deck that needs to be shared on the Wisdom Company page. I spoke at SharePoint Saturday DC. Here are my slides. Here's a link from my personal SlideShare account, and I want to share it on the company page. It must be approved first. So utilizing this form, Prashant can submit this information and have it approved by marketing. And once it's approved, then it kicks off the process to publish to LinkedIn. So, but with that being said, what we've covered today as we wrap up is, number one, this is the continuation of the reputation management discussion regarding Microsoft LinkedIn. And we covered it not from a social media standpoint, but from a search standpoint, from an integration standpoint. We've covered up to 4 different perspectives on our integration points. Let them all in.
I'll leave some chargers.
Let's go. So yes, in closing, LinkedIn is for the enterprise. LinkedIn is integrated with Office 365. And if you utilize the world's largest business network to help your company share their message, also share the accomplishments of employees, what you'll have is an intelligent solution to growing your company. Thank you very much.